Remember, the sunrise from the west is a watershed event. It has to create a sense of fear amongst the population of the entire world so that they run towards faith. So we are ready for this event to occur, but it hasn't occurred yet. And to better understand this, let's watch this little documentary from Al Jazeera on nuclear EMP technology and what would the effects be of the use of a nuclear EMP weapon.
A nuclear EMP, or electromagnetic pulse, is the electric shock wave triggered by a nuclear blast. It has the ability to fry every single electronic circuit in its range, destroying most devices unless they're shielded. The higher the altitude a nuclear weapon detonates, the wider the effect is over its target. All right, so what does this mean? It means once an EMP goes off, everything affected by it goes dark, literally. A single nuclear bomb exploding high enough can destroy a country's ability to light its streets, power its hospitals, run its stock exchange, access the internet, or use a phone. Most trappings of the 21st century would simply stop working. No car or plane would move, no police officer or fireman could be called, no supermarket restocked. Modern life as we know it would simply cease to exist. North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un has threatened to do just this, to detonate a single nuclear weapon high up in the atmosphere above the United States. And while very little blast damage would be felt, more than 320 million Americans would suddenly find themselves fighting for survival, without power, without lights, and running out of food. Protection against this kind of attack is enormously expensive. The price tag running into the billions and not guaranteed to work. And although some exaggerated estimates claim up to 90% of Americans would die as a consequence, one thing's for sure, it would take months, if not years, for the country to fully recover.
So the interesting thing is here that one nuclear EMP weapon is enough to cripple an entire continent. One nuclear EMP weapon detonated high enough could wipe out the entire electrical infrastructure of North America or of Western Europe. So this is a map that shows the blast damage, the potential blast radius of the electromagnetic pulse from a high altitude nuclear EMP weapon. So if you were to detonate it 300 miles above the Earth's surface, so in space, it would have an effective blast radius that would cover all of America and almost, I'd say, half of Canada. So it would be a very, very big blast radius. And so this is why it also points to this being a singular event, a single weapon being used as a sunrise in the West. One weapon being detonated high in the sky and being visible to people across thousands of miles on the ground. And remember that the sunrise from the west is a watershed event. So let's ask ourselves, could this type of weapon being used in a Western country qualify as a watershed event? Let's hear what National Geographic has to say about this.
In less than a billionth of a second, the electrical intensity on Earth's surface becomes so hot, microchips fry, power lines overload, and the electric grid collapses.
Everything with microelectronics in it stops. Your car, your computer, the subway, there's no electricity. If you think about it, if you don't have any electricity, you don't have anything in our infrastructure, do you?
It would change the game. It would change the world order.
Look around you and imagine what life would be like in a world without power. It's an electronic Armageddon.
So yeah, it would be a world-changing event, because you would take one of the most advanced countries in the world and plunge them 200 years into the past, because this weapon, when it detonates in space, causes a type of cardiac arrest for every single electronic device, whether it's plugged in or not plugged in. So the entire infrastructure of that country would be wiped out. It would be a massive, massive watershed event, indeed. So what would be the effects of this type of a weapon being used? Well, like I said, it would actually melt the electrical infrastructure. When this kind of a nuclear weapon detonates high in space as an EMP, it generates hundreds, if not thousands of volts on the surface of the Earth per square meter. So it's not like you just tripped a switch or blown a fuse. The wires and the circuits inside all of the electronic devices will melt. So it's going to be very, very hard to recover from this. Your electric infrastructure will have melted down at the electronic component level. What does that mean? Well, when you open the taps, there will be no water, because none of the water pumps will work. Because there's no electricity, you'll have no gas, no heating. You won't be able to cook your food because you can't pump gas from a central system into your house or into your apartment. You won't have any refrigeration, because refrigeration requires energy. You definitely won't be like these people having a great time in the grocery store, because all of the food will start to spoil. There'll be no sanitation. You'll go and try and flush, and the flush won't work because there'll be no water. What are you going to do? Where will you dispose of your waste? When the coronavirus pandemic happened, people were going into a frenzy over not having enough toilet paper. Imagine what people will do when they can't actually dispose of their own waste. And this will actually cause a lot of disease to spread. You'll have cholera, you'll have typhus, you'll have all kinds of pestilence spreading because of a lack of sanitation. And just when you could really rely on getting a good checkup, getting some antibiotics from your doctor, getting yourself really good medical treatment, when you need it the most, the medical system won't be there for you. X-ray machines won't work. MRI machines won't work. Simple diagnostic machines won't work. Anesthesia machines won't work. Nothing in the medical system will work. And so the entire medical system will collapse. You'll have no logistics, because planes, trains, boats, and cars all run on electronics. So you won't be able to get the essential supplies you need into the cities where you live. Your cities will be starved not only of food, but everything that they need to function. And you might say to yourself, well, I'll just go out in my car and I'll go get the things I need. Well, no, you won't be able to do that, because your car's starter motor will have fried. You'll have to either walk or go by bike or find some other creative method of transportation. You'll have no communications. You can't pick up the phone and call someone. The entire communication system will go down. This will create a lot of chaos, a lot of panic. People won't know what to do. You'll have no internet and no social media, so you won't be able to connect with other people. You won't be able to ask them questions. You won't be able to find out what's happened in your city, in your country. If you don't know the answer to something, you can't just search it on Google. You'll have to read a book or figure out some other way to find that information. You won't have any way to access banking services and take cash out of the system. So even if you do find someone who has fresh food, how will you get that fresh food from them? What will you give them in exchange for that food? And when all of this happens, it'll lead to a breakdown of society and a breakdown of societal order, because people will just grab and steal the things they need to survive. It doesn't take long for society to collapse and break down once every single person is in a fight for survival. And in response to this, governments will be forced to enact strict martial law. So you're starting to get a picture of just how big of a deal this would be if a nuclear EMP weapon was detonated above a Western country. But some people might think that, okay, this will have a localized effect only. If I'm living in a different country, maybe I live in the East, it shouldn't have any effect on me. Why would it be a big event for me if I'm living in Pakistan, Bangladesh, Indonesia? I'm not in the West. Why is this going to make me fear death and run towards Iman? And the answer is because this will be a global watershed event which will have global impacts. Just because you are not in that position and you're not directly affected by this event, the impacts of this event, the reverberations of this event will be felt around the world. The first thing that will happen is a global financial crisis. Every single stock exchange and stock market in the world will be zero. Everyone will be panicked and will be trying to get their money out of the stock exchange into some kind of a real asset. All countries will shut down their borders. They won't know what to do. They'll be in a high security state, so you will not be able to travel. Countries will start resource hoarding. If a country is a net importer of oil, it'll try and store as much oil as it can. If it's a net importer of rice and grains, it'll try and store those things. If it needs fertilizer, it'll try and store those things, because the international mechanisms of trade and logistics and transport and mutual security will be falling apart. And those countries that don't have the resources that they need will wage war on others to capture those resources by force. So you will see global resource wars emerge suddenly and without warning. This will lead to a power vacuum in many countries, resulting in military coups, assassinations, and power grabs across the world. And lastly, if you are a country that is a nuclear power that was not directly affected by this, you will have your finger hovering over the nuclear launch button, because you will feel that your country could be targeted next at any minute of any day. So you will be on the edge of Armageddon. So one weapon, one high altitude detonation of a nuclear EMP weapon in space would be a literal sunrise, a visual sunrise. It would be a massive watershed event. At the physics level, it would be a sunrise. Visually, you'd see it with your eyes thousands of miles away as this massive spherical ball of light that's lighting up the atmosphere. It would cause a global calamity to befall the earth, making people fear death, fear the end times, and rush towards faith. The sunrise from the west will be a nuclear EMP weapon attack upon a Western country. A man-made sun in space, seen rising from the west. One of the strongest proofs in support of this interpretation of the sunrise from the west is from Surah An-Naml, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "When the word falls on them, we shall bring forth for them out of the earth a beast that shall speak unto them, and the word shall fall upon them because of the evil they committed while they speak not." And the translation for word is al-qawlu. Al-qawlu. Al-qawlu comes from the root kaf, waw, lam. And one of the meanings of this root word is to make a sign. So you can read these ayat as being, when the sign falls on them, we shall bring forth for them out of the earth a beast that shall speak unto them, and the sign shall fall upon them because of the evil they committed while they speak not. And what sign could this be? Well, it's the sunrise from the west, and we know this from the Sunan Ibn Majah hadith, that the sunrise from the west is the event that precedes the appearance of the Dawatul Middle Earth. The sunrise from the west happens in the morning, s.w.t Middle Earth occurs in the forenoon. Whichever of them appears first, the other will come soon after. The narrator said, I don't think it will be anything other than the sun rising from the west. So the sign that shall fall on them is the sun rising on the west. When the sunrise from the west, when this nuclear EMP falls on them, we shall bring forth for them out of the earth a beast that shall speak unto them. And this weapon, this nuclear EMP, the sunrise from the west, shall fall upon them because of the evil they committed. So this has very, very important implications. The sunrise from the west is a sign from Allah which will fall upon a people. So it is affecting a group of people. It is witnessed by the whole world, but it is something that will affect a group of people. Why? It will be a punishment for those people because of the evil they committed. So the sunrise from the west is not a symbolic sunrise with an abstract meaning. It is a punishment that will fall upon a people. It is not the slowing of the earth. It is not the reversal of the earth's core. It is a high altitude nuclear EMP weapon that will blast that country into a state of complete chaos and will send the world into a state of complete chaos. So let's ask ourselves this question. What is the evil committed by the people of the West against which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send the punishment of the sunrise in the West?